Hey friends, Dave here. I wanted to talk quickly about one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of businesses making on social media. And basically what it is that, oftentimes on each of the channels, they're just sharing the same thing, right? And particularly if you're doing it really bad, all you're doing is talking about, hey, look at me, buy my stuff, right? And you're saying, hey, look at me over here on this channel, hey, look at me over here on that channel, and whatever. And really the real interesting thing to think about, and the real reason why anybody would decide to follow you on each of those channels, right? Obviously, there are the channels that people prefer, but ultimately, you'd love to get to this place where people are following you on every one of the channels that you have available, right? That they're on, because that has more opportunity to keep your business top of mind. But think about this. The mistake is just sharing the same thing across all of these channels. And if I did that, right, if you're saying, again, buy my stuff, this is a horrible example just because that's not always what you want to be doing, particularly on social media. But let's just say that's what we're going with. Buy my stuff. You're saying it here. You're saying it on Facebook. You're saying it on Twitter. You're saying it on Instagram, whatever. You're saying the same thing. Why do I have any reason to follow or stay connected with you on each of those channels when I'm not really getting anything valuable on each of the channels or in a different way? And that's what the real opportunity is to think about what are the strengths of each of the channels and how do you match what you're creating and what you're doing there from an engagement perspective to fit the channel. And so when you think about Facebook, right, what are you competing with in that news feed? You're really competing with friends, family, and news, right? And so you got to keep that in mind when you're sharing content or creating things for that channel. In particular, you want to be in the headspace of the person that is flipping through that channel and creating things that speak to how they're expecting to use that channel. So if you think about Instagram, for example, obviously that's a highly visual channel. They're putting big, things forward in terms of thinking about reels and using short videos and things like that on the stories on those channels, right? So you got to think in a visual way and using video, things like that. Pinterest is one we actually don't hear a lot about these days, at least I don't. But interestingly enough, it can be a really good, still one of those channels that can be a really good traffic driver because it's all about sharing links to supportive things, right, back to your website or, helpful things that are like DIY, right, visual tips, ideas, things that people can do. And so that's the type of content that you want to share there. When you think about LinkedIn, where you're watching this video potentially right now, right, like that's more about making connections with people on a professional networking type of way, right? Thinking about the connections that you can make for your business that with other people on that platform. Twitter, of course, is kind of like this what's happening right now in this instant. It's kind of like a public news station, if you think of it that way, right? So how can the information that you have or the conversations that you're having on Twitter be really timely and relevant to what's happening in the now? And then, of course, you could argue whether or not YouTube is a social channel. I think it depends on how you use it. But ultimately, what you're thinking about here is this can be for longer form video content, right? That is either educational or entertaining, something like that. And so when you think about what is the purpose of each of the channel, take that into account for the content that you can create and place on each of those channels. Now, of course, you can have the same theme, right, in relation to what it is that you're doing or maybe a campaign that you have going on, but the actual content you're putting on those channels is about matching it to the channel itself. Interesting example here. I think Netflix actually does this really well. And so if you follow the Netflix page on LinkedIn, it's all about the businesses of running LinkedIn. And then if you go on Facebook and you find Netflix and you're following there, it's all about consumption of the shows that they have, right? It's more geared towards the consumer and talking to them directly and trying to get them to watch more videos or more content on the platform. So some things to think about. Let me know some of the ways. Are you changing it up when you share something on one channel to the next? How are you doing that? I'd love to hear. All right, friends, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.